Welcome to another round of the Twisted Metal tournament. We've gotten a few big bruisers past the finish line already. Now I'd like to wean myself onto some of the smaller vehicles in the game. And what better place to start than a hearse that keeps a corpse on the hood rather than in the back. And its driver is our first female competitor. 17-year-old Raven is the second youngest driver in the competition.
My parents put me in here. They think it was Kelly's death that sent me over the edge. They thought I'd gone nuts. But you know what the truth is? They're the ones who should have been put away. There are tons of kids just like me. It was a relief to finally meet someone who understood. His name was Calypso. He ran this contest. He said if I won, I could fulfill Kelly's dying wish. I could avenge her death. So I told him I'd play his stupid game. Kelly was my best friend in the world. I would have died for her. Who knows? Maybe if I'm lucky, I'll get the chance.
Raven strikes me as a fair bit less malicious than most of the other drivers. But still, you don't get very far in Twisted Metal without a taste for killing. Now note that it says level 2 of 8, even though this is the third one we've seen. That's because after the junkyard, you get a choice to play the suburbs or the freeway. There are several points in the game where you get a choice of levels. And in this case, I almost always choose the suburbs. Not very fond of the freeway. In my opinion, it's much more difficult than the suburbs. It does, however, have 7 opponents as opposed to the 8 in the suburbs, meaning in theory it can go a little faster. It's also nice to have variety when you're replaying the game a good 14 times to get all the endings. Perhaps my greatest challenge in dealing with this level was getting used to playing as a smaller vehicle. The increased speed alone meant I had to recalibrate all the timing on all of my attacks. Plus, having much lower armor meant I had to drastically change up my tactics because I couldn't just ram into people anymore. On the bright side, the freeway is not conducive to ramming into people anyway, so run and gun tactics do work pretty well here, and Shadow's a decent choice for that. Already taken out Outlaw. Use my special to finish him. Usually, though, I'll want to focus on a much lower armor opponent. Knock them out of the game, because here on the freeway, you're pretty much always under attack from all the enemies. Most of the level consists of this mostly straight patch of road, and if that's where you are, everyone will rush to join you. So something like Darkside here is to be avoided until you're relatively sure you can face them alone. In failing to do so, we traded 1 life for 1 kill, and that's simply not going to work out in our favor in the end. This construction area at least gives you the opportunity to dodge around, unlike the open road, where you're pretty much always under attack. No dodging that Spectre missile, though. So, Darkside wants to kill us again. Who could blame her? And right in the middle of our assault, the helicopter drags a health pickup right into her. Still done significant damage along the way. And with poor use of the special, and a little bit more persistence, you can take her out. You may have noticed there that Shadow Special is one of the rare attacks in the game that can hit the driver who fired it, which makes it one of my least favorite specials, despite its similarity to the gas can. It fires a creeping shadow across the ground, which, when you hit the fire button again, detonates that area. Supposedly, the vehicle itself is named for the shadowy nature of that special. However, the more interesting origin of the vehicle is that it was the hearse that drove Raven's friend Kelly to the morgue. which Raven then stole and modified into a death machine. That brief peek into our rearview mirror showed that we are pretty safe at the moment. Safe enough to drive to the very end of the freeway here, collect some weapons, and get attacked once again. I described Shadow here as a small vehicle. However, with average stats all the way across the board, it's really more of a mid-sized vehicle compared to Roadkill there, who's trying to escape us now. That's one of the things that makes taking out enemies much more difficult here. They always run away, and there's so much open area, they have a pretty good chance of escape. The stadium here has 2 health pickups right near that ramp. Makes it a good place to stop by after you've taken a beating. A careful drive up this railing here can get us some power missiles as well, and get us stuck in the geometry. Left me a sitting duck for much longer than I'm comfortable with. That's an extremely rare sort of glitch though. In fact, I've never seen it before. Now, with almost every vehicle softened up to a point where I can take it in a head-on fight, just need to top off my health as best I can. Get a little more armaments. And chase Spectre the hell out of this hospital. In fact, she seems like a good target to test out my secondary special. And right there is Raven popping out of the top of her vehicle and firing a turret at the enemy. It's a hysterically useless attack. Raven doesn't lead her shots at all, and because they're bullets instead of missiles, they don't home. So the odds of doing any damage with it at all are very poor. That said, kinda nice to have the option of a secondary special. There's only one other car in the game with a secondary special, and that's Axel, who we do not have access to yet. With the race as close as it is, though, I prefer not to waste my special ammunition. Not to mention that it's kind of distracting just to perform the ultimate special. You have to press up 3 times, which while you're driving can throw you off, make you crash into a wall. Temporarily free of the swarm. Got a good shot at Yellow Jacket, who is continuously playing the opportunist. He did eat pretty much the entire special there, and it almost brought him to yellow health from full. Which is kind of pathetic compared to most specials. We've made a clean break from him, and I'm going to try and use myself as bait to lure out a hopefully half-dead enemy, like Sweet Tooth here. Now we gotta work quick, get him into the red before anyone else shows up, and keep hammering on him until he's dead. Another thing about Shadow's special, fairly hard to control. It moves very, very quickly, and its radius isn't quite as large as I'd like. I've pretty much gotten used to it, though. Killed at least 2 enemies with it thus far. Roadkill has joined us to the impenetrable end of the freeway, as he often does. And his tenacity has proved pretty deadly to us. So I'm going to make an attempt at recuperation for a while, see if I can't lose him. The hospital probably has not respawned its health pickup yet. So I'll rearm out here. And he'll devastate me with his special. I was able to make it even, though. Pretty much die happy and move on to my final life. No reason to rush it, though. Still got a bit of ammo left. Try to at least deal some damage on my way out. Probably the best use of Spectre's special right there. killing a very nearly dead enemy. While we're wandering around, notice the missile hanging off of the left of Shadow there. Every single weapon in the game appears physically on the vehicle and fires from a different part of the vehicle, which is something you have to get used to during your first hour or so playing as said vehicle trying to accomplish their storyline. Once you got a good sense of where every weapon fires from, you can usually make the best use of your weapons. And so long as you are sufficiently armed, you can kill anybody, and quite handily at that. Now, of course, a big part of getting armed in the first place is memorizing pickup locations. You'll have to spend usually a couple of deaths just finding out where all the items you need are located. The stadium here is a decent place to get pickups, mostly because enemies don't come here to pillage it themselves. Until you're there. Then they chase you. Grim here is a little fast for my taste, so I'm going to try and freeze him. I meant to explain energy attacks earlier. The freeze shot is one of them. It's performed by pressing up, down, up. Which, as I said, directional inputs are kind of awkward in the middle of combat. But I'll have to get used to them because all the energy attacks are based on directional inputs. If you look at the orange bar just below the health, you can see that I've used a decent chunk of my energy. And of course, that's what the freeze attack looks like when it actually hits. I've still failed to land one. So we're down to just a single opponent, as playing the one enemy left music. Very intense stuff. However, we still have a secret unlockable to collect. I'll be damned if I'm leaving without it. Spectre has no intention of making that easy on us. It's back in that construction area where she's currently camping. So I'm going to try my damnedest to lure her out of there. I was hoping maybe she'd follow me up to the hospital. Usually the AI opponents are pretty good at that. She's not really interested this time, though. Nope, not even if I hide all the way at the back of the building will she come after me. She might be demonstrating a tactic that the AI often employs, which is to find a spot in higher ground, just camp there, wait for you to show up. The AI's got nothing but time. And in this case, heavy explosives at their disposal. Spectre's really turned the tides of battle, and I've got a pretty poor chance of making it out alive. So it's back to the stadium, where I can feel safe for a moment. But more importantly, lure her over here, then leap out of the corner. She has to take the long way out, because she's not quite as agile as I am. That gives me a chance to take out that weird orange box on the crane there. Line up my shot with bullets, fire the gas can, and get it in one. I said previously that it's fairly reasonable to get all the unlockables on your own. That one is a glaring exception. I don't know how you would know to do that. But actually performing that, small miracle, unlocks Axel. An old staple of the series, by far the most ridiculous vehicle in the game. One of my most hated opponents on top of that. Not a concern at the moment, though. A much more pressing concern is that Spectre is at half health, and I'm at nearly none. Just juke past her. And once again, pray for health pickups at the stadium. Because the stadium has 2 pickups, it's the most likely area to have a pickup for you at any given time. And the stadium happens to be a perfect place to end things. Just Stare at the entrance. Fire everything we got as soon as she shows up. And she's gone. Time to celebrate. We have some beautiful, suicidal fireworks, but despite appearances, we did still achieve victory. It should come as no surprise, though, that our self-destructive celebration has left Raven unconscious amidst fiery wreckage.
Being unconscious is like being in a pitch-black room with no doors, no lights, and no way out. I could have stayed in that place forever. But then, the dreams began. Kelly and I were on the pier. School had just let out. We were using our tarot cards, trying to find out if this boy Kelly liked would ever notice her. It was a really bad reading. I guess if I ever needed proof that the cards actually worked, that was the day I got it. They were some jerk-off guys from school. They called us witches. One guy grabbed me, another went after Kelly. He said he'd always wanted to see if a witch could swim. I kept screaming at him, "She can't swim! Kelly can't swim!" I didn't know how to swim either. There was nothing I could do. They didn't stick around to help. As Kelly went under, I heard her shouting to me. "You get them," she said. "You make them pay for this." And then I didn't hear her anymore. I've waited 5 months for this chance. Kelly trusted me with her last request. I promise I'll deliver. That's what best friends are for.
High school drama turns deadly for one goth girl, all because of one tragic misreading of the tarot. Luckily, if Calypso's in a good enough mood, it's about to turn deadly for those two jocks as well.
I'd won Calypso's stupid game. He said it was time to claim my prize. It was time for Kelly to get her revenge. I didn't know what Calypso was getting at first. But then I began to see. Revenge, this way. It's what Kelly would have wanted more than anything in the world. An eye for an eye, blood for blood. It was the code of the witch. It's weird. As I pushed that first pin down, I felt something give. It was like pushing into a person. And from far away, I could have sworn I heard someone screaming. It took 2 days for the cops to find the bodies. When they got there, well, let's just say it wasn't a very pretty sight. I've kept the voodoo dolls in case I ever run into my parents again. I know I won't see Kelly anytime soon, but I often feel like she's with me, protecting me. People may come and go, they live, and they die. But a true friend is forever.
Another revenge wish granted in what is, in my opinion, one of the weaker endings of the game. It's just odd to me that a person named Calypso, after the Caribbean style of music, also knows voodoo, the Caribbean style of black magic. It worked out perfectly for Raven, at least, who is one of the more detached heroes, not quite as passionate or intense as the others we'll be seeing. Strangely enough, this ending will be paying off much later down the line, towards the end of this Let's Play. For now, though, it's just something to think on as we move forward.